ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। Ch11 friends, let us continue our reading of Yog Vasishtha from book 2nd, chapter 11 on the qualification of a student and teacher. Vasishtha says, I have fully related to you about the descent of knowledge on earth, the reason for my birth, and the intention of lotus-born Brahma. Now, Ram, as you are eager to learn transcendental knowledge, and as you are so anxious for it in your mind, it must be the effect of your pristine merit. Ram said, Sage, how was it that the Supreme Lord felt a desire to send knowledge on earth after his creation? Vasishtha replied, Brahma in his own nature is the same as the Supreme Brahman. He is born in him like a wave is born on the waters of the deep. This great Lord saw the imperfection of his creation and saw its whole course in times, past, present and future. He saw the decay of ceremonial rites after the end of the age of truth and other ages, and considering the error in which men were to fall, he felt pity for them. Then the Lord thought of giving me true knowledge and sent me to earth to dispel the ignorance of mankind. Like me, he has sent other great sages here, like Sanat Kumar, Narad, and many others also. He has sent them all to redeem mankind from the chain of its ignorance through a series of good acts and through their progress in divine knowledge. At the end of the past golden age, these great sages saw the gradual decay on earth of the holy rituals. They created rulers at various places on earth in order to regulate the course of duties and observe proper limits. They made many works on traditional law and sacrificial rules to be observed on earth, and appropriate provision for the accomplishment of religious and temporal duties. That was done in Smritis. But with time, all these duties became slack in their conduct, and men have no thought other than seeking their daily maintenance. Every day, disputes arise among landowners on account of their estates and properties, and people are subjected to various penalties in large numbers. Under such conditions, it is not possible to govern without states fighting each other, resulting in rulers and subjects inevitably being reduced to wretchedness. In order to remove the importance of such princes and lead them to a comprehensive view of things, we have prescribed many excellent precepts of knowledge to them. This spiritual knowledge was first given to princes, but afterwards it came to be known under the title of royal science, that is Raj Vidya. This royal science is of a hidden esoteric nature. It is also the best kind of spiritual knowledge. Many kings have been set beyond the reach of calamity by knowledge of this science. It is after many such fair-famed princes had gone by that your mighty self was begotten by the present King Dashrath. O slayer of your enemies, I find a very agreeable and holy kind of apathy growing spontaneously in your most clear understanding. There is another kind of cold-heartedness, O Ram, caused in the minds of the virtuous and reasonable men, which is called casual detachment. But your unprecedented and astonishing apathy produced without any cause, and only by your reason, is called by the wise to be real detachment. Seeing the harmfulness of worldly things, what man will not grow adverse to them? The greatest displeasure is that which rises in the mind from one's own judgment. They are reckoned as great and wise men whose detachment springs without cause, and of whose minds are clear. It is as graceful to see a person whose mind with good discrimination feels a disgust from its own judgment as it is to see a young bridegroom adorned with garlands of flowers. They are esteemed as the best of men who are judicious, after judicious consideration of worldly troubles, apply themselves to detachment. It must be by one's repeated and judicious examination of inner and outer illusions that he should forcibly withdraw himself from them. Who is there at the mournful sight of a funeral who doesn't feel an aversion to worldliness? However, it is aversion born of itself that is highly commendable. I see that you are sincerely indifferent and reaching the acme of true greatness. You are worthy of the best of knowledge, as is the moist earth of receiving seeds. It is by the grace of Lord, God and Supreme Spirit that a lucky understanding like yours naturally inclines to reason. I will take a pause and discuss with you here that here we so many times we have seen Ramayana, but in Ramayana nowhere this thing was so well described that Ram got detachment, and he was so detached and without any cause. You know, we have seen that Mahatma Buddha, who was earlier a prince, Gautam, he got detachment after seeing a dead body. But Lord Ram, even without seeing a dead body, he got the detachment. He has such a thing in his mind, disinclination from the worldly affairs and their unrealness. So this I took a pause to discuss this with you, and let us now continue. It is by performance of ritual duties and observance of prescribed rules that the demerits of former births are expunged. Upon removing former demerits, understanding turns of itself to become aware of spiritual matters. Like the simultaneous flight of a crow towards a falling coconut. But those devoted only to ritual acts are like people plunged in an eddy in which they whirl up and down until they come to perceive the state of supreme joy. Seeing this state of the world, a man must shake off the delusion of his worldly mindedness, just as the elephant breaks loose from his own chains. It is too intricate, O Ram, to understand the course of this boundless world. Not even the greatest of embodied beings can know it without true knowledge. Know, O support of Raghu's race, that men of great understanding have passed over the unfordable ocean of the world by means of the raft of their knowledge and reason. Now, with the attention and steadiness of mind, hear this rational knowledge for your deliverance from the flood of this world. Without the remedy of right reason, the unceasing excitement of the senses and the fears and miseries of the world will continually disturb the mind. There is nothing other than rational knowledge that can enable holy men to endure the afflictions of the opposite extremes of heat and cold and wind and rain. The constant cares and miseries which befall to men at every step sometimes serve to torment the ignorant mind, like a flame of the fire burns a straw. But the troubles of this world cannot afflict a wise man who knows the knowable and discerns all things, just as it is impossible for the flame to burn wood drenched by rain. A man knowing the truth is like a firm oak tree, that no whirlwind of disease or distress, raised by the hot winds of this desert of the world, has the power to upset. An intelligent man who has a mind to know the truth must diligently serve his wise teacher with loving regard. What a well-minded teacher says in response to any question must be carefully preserved in the mind, like a piece of fine muslin receives dye. O best of the eloquent, you must not receive instruction from one unacquainted with truth. Whoever asks such a person anything is the greatest of fools. He is the basest of men who doesn't carefully attend to the words of the truth-telling teacher who is asked about anything. He is the best inquirer who seeks answers from a person who demonstrates by his actions whether he knows the knowable or not. A person who asks boyish questions without determining the teacher's qualifications is reckoned a vile inquirer incapable of knowing great things. When asked, a wise man will reply to him who is able to comprehend the former and later propositions, and who is possessed of a good understanding. But he should make no answer to a vile, brutish being. The teacher who gives his lecture without examining the capacity of the inquirer to grasp his meaning is pronounced unwise by the learned. O delight of Raghu's race, our meeting is very congenial. We are well adapted to each other. You are, as an inquirer, are an admirer of virtue, and I, the speaker, am well acquainted. You, who understand the meaning of the words, should well consider everything that I tell you and take them to heart. You are truly great and disgusted with the world, and you know the truth among mankind. Whatever is spoken to you must be impressed in your mind like red dye on muslin. By your attention to what I say and your discrimination of spiritual matters, you can make your understanding receive my instruction like waters reflect sunlight. Receive all that I say and store them diligently in your mind, or else it is useless to ask me anything. The mind, O Ram, is as fickle as an ape in the forest. Correct it carefully and attend to spiritual instruction. Always keep yourself from the injudicious and ignorant, and those addicted to the company of wicked people, and honor the virtuous. It is by association with good people that we can gain the wisdom that resembles a tree yielding fruits of enjoyment and liberation. It is said there are 4 guards who keep watch at the gate of liberation. They are peace, judgment, contentment, and company of the good. All these, or 3 or 2 of them, are to be attended with care, because they shall open the door leading to the abode of liberation. At least one of them is to be sought with diligence, even at the expense of one's life, because by securing one of these, a man can reconcile and gain all 4. So I would repeat, this is peace, judgment, contentment, and company of the good. The wise man is a receptacle of all scriptures, of all knowledge and austerity, and is a gem on earth, just like the sun is the receptacle of light. The dull understanding of a senseless man becomes as stiff as a block, and like water freezing as hard as a stone. Your good nature and good qualities, O Ram, and the counsels of the learned in the scriptures have made you sit here with a heart blooming like a lotus towards the rising sun. Your ears lifted to hear these wise lectures have enabled you to repress your thoughts. As the music of the lute attracts the mind of the deer, now secure, O Ram, the treasures of peace and good nature by your practice of detachment, of which there is no decay. Your knowledge of the attainment of liberation will be increased by your attending to the scriptures and the society of good men, and also by your patience of austerity and self-subjection. You must know that the sure remedy against ignorance is the study of divine knowledge with a clear understanding. Know this world is a poisonous plant and a seat of dangers. It infects the ignorant at all times, unless one will take the pains to dispel his darkness. Greed, accompanied by ignorance, moves within the heart in a serpentine course, by turns expanding and contracting it like a blacksmith's bellows. The true light of things dawns only in the minds of the wise, just as the gentle moon appears only in a clear and cloudless sky. He is truly called a man who can judge by the major and minor propositions, whose mind is expanded and filled with brilliant ingenuity. Ram, the clear wisdom of your mind makes you shine like the full moon, dispelling the darkness of the cloudless sky by her cooling and translucent beams. With this, this chapter 11 ends. So we will take the next chapter, the greatness of true knowledge. Vasishtha continuing, Ram, I honor you as one of a perfect mind. You know what to ask and you understand what is spoken to you. Therefore, I will continue speaking to you respectfully. Be still and keep your mind fixed in yourself and attend to knowledge. Be free of pride and passions and incline yourself to pure truth. You are possessed of all the qualities of an inquirer, and I those of the speaker, inasmuch as there are gems in the ocean. My son, you have gained the detachment that is closely related to reason, like the humidity of the moonstone correlates to gentle moonbeams. Ram, your long and early practiced pure virtues and good qualities have raised your fame like the long stretching white fibers of the staff exhale the spotless lotus. Now hear the words I tell you, Ram, for you alone are fit to receive them, as only the moon is able to open the Kumud lotus petals. Whatever business or investigation someone undertakes, it must be brought to a happy conclusion that tends towards his peace and tranquility. If man of good understanding did not have the solace of philosophy, what rational being could dare bear the misery that ignorance brings in this world? All the faculties of the mind are absorbed in contemplation of the Supreme, like solar heat dissolves the rocks of boundary mountains at the end of the world. Ram, the intolerable stomach cramping pain caused by this venomous world is healed only by yoga meditation, just like the poison of a snake bite is removed by Garuda incantations. One obtains the capacity for yoga by discussing the scriptures in the company of good people, which alone can provide us with the great charm of spiritual knowledge. It must be recognized that we lessen our sorrows by acting with reason. Therefore, reasonable men are never to be disregarded. A reasoning man gets released from his worldly sickness. He quits his frame, which is full of diseases, just as a snake casts off his time-worn skin. He looks with a placid mind and calm composure upon the magic scenes of the world. Hence, a fully wise man is not subject to the misery of the imperfectly wise. The rough and uneven pleasure of the world is a disease that stings like a snake. It cuts men like a sword and pierces them like a spear. It binds them tightly like a rope and burns them like fire. It blindfolds their understanding like the darkness of the sky. It makes them as prostrate and dull as a slab of stone. It destroys one's prudence and lowers his position. It casts men into the pit of error and torments them with greed. Thus, there is almost no kind of trouble which doesn't happen to worldly-minded men. Worldliness is as dangerous a disease as cholera, which, unless it is healed in time, is sure to trouble its patient with the torments of hell. Like eating stones, wounded by swords and spears, pelted by stones, burned by stone, numbed by frost, dislocated limbs, body smeared with blood like sandalwood paste, bored by worms like worm-eaten trees, body pierced by pikes, broomsticks, and the fiery shafts and bolts, continually failing in battle, toil and drudgery under the sun, the cold wetness of work in a summer fountain house, dumb and deaf without rest or sleep, and finally suffering decapitation. With thousands of such intolerable tortures of worldly life, no one should remain negligent of his release from this state, but ought to think that only his reflection on his scriptures can produce his real good. Ram, look upon this assembly of great sages, rishis, brahmins, and princes who have fortified themselves by the armor of wisdom and are liable to no pain or grief. Yet they are engaged in the arduous affairs of this world with minds as blessed as yours. Moreover, there are many of the best of men who, with their spiritual light and pure understanding, reside in this world like the gods, Hari, Hara, and Brahma, above all concerns and fluctuating desires of life. The journey of this world is delightful to one who, after the removal of his errors and dispersion of the cloud of his ignorance, has come to the knowledge of truth. When serenity of the mind and calm repose of the heart are secured, all the senses are subjected to peace, and everything is viewed in an equal light. And this knowledge of the truth gives delight to our journey in this world. Know also that this body of ours is the car, these organs are its horses, our breeze are the winds blowing upon it, and the mind is the driver who feels the delight of driving. The minute subtle soul is the rider who is conscious of wandering about the world. Knowledge of this truth makes our earthly journey a pleasant one. With this, chapter 12 also ends. Let us take the next chapter on equanimity, the characteristics of a saint. Vasishtha is continuing. Intelligent men who have seen the spirit fix their sight upon it and wander about in the world as persons of great and elevated souls. They do not grieve, nor do they wish or ask for anything of good or evil in this world. They do their works with detachment. Those who rely on themselves remain quiet, unaffected by good or evil, and acting their parts with a calm serenity. They take no concern for what is harmful or delectable to them. They are alike indifferent to coming or not coming, going or not going, doing or not doing, and speaking or not speaking. After having come to know their God, whatever acts or sights may appear pleasant or disgusting to others cease to affect them in any way. The mind, having read its desires, feels a sweet composure associated with bliss that is like moonlight descending from the heavenly orb all about. By being unmindful of worldly affairs and regardless of all its excitements, the soul is filled with a joy resembling the ambrosial waters in the moon. He who ceases to act his magical parts and desists from following his inclinations and childish pranks shines forth in his spiritual light. Such are the powers gained from the spiritual knowledge and by no other means whatever. Therefore, should a man employ his reasoning powers towards life to try to seek and know and adore the Supreme Soul. It is the agreement of one's beliefs with the teachings of the scriptures and his instructor, joined with his constant meditation, that can give him a full view of the Supreme Spirit. The fool, slighting the scriptures and their instructions and disregarding the counsels of great men, is exposed to difficulties and dangers from which he can have no release. There is no disease or poison, no trouble or affliction so painful to one in this earth as the ignorance one breeds in himself. Those whose intellects are purified a little will find this work to be of greater effect to dispel their ignorance than any other scripture. Everyone who is a friend to good sayings and good sense should diligently attend to this scripture with its beautiful examples, pleasing lessons, and lack of inconsistencies. Lack of dignity, inextricable difficulties, and baseness and degeneracy are all the offsprings of ignorance, just like thorns are the offshoots of the prickly Ketaki plant. It is far better, O Ram, to rove about begging with a pot in hand to the homes of vile Chandals than to lead a life deadened by ignorance. Rather dwell in dark, dismal cells, within dry, dreary wells, in the hollow of trees, or remain like solitary blind worms than labor under the misery of ignorance. A man receiving the light, leading to his liberation, will never fall into the darkness of errors or gloom of death. As long as the clear light of reason doesn't shine upon the mind like the sun, so long will the chilly frost of poverty continue to contract the lotus of humanity. To liberate oneself from the miseries of the world, one must know the true nature of the soul, both from his teacher and from the evidence of the scriptures, and also from friends like ourselves. Try, O Ram, to imitate those who are liberated in their lifetime, who are free to roam about like the gods Hari, Hara, and others, and like the holy sages among Brahmin. Here, our miseries are the endless as atoms, and our happiness is as small as a drop of water on a piece of straw. Therefore, do not fix your sight upon the little happiness which is beset by misery. Let an intelligent man diligently apply himself to attain that state of endless happiness which is free from pain and constitutes his highest completion. They are reckoned the best of men and deserving of completion, whose minds are free from the fever and attached to the transcendental state. Those base-minded mortals who are satisfied with their enjoyments, eating and drinking, and the pleasures of their worldly possessions, are reckoned as stark, blind fools. Those attached to the company of impostors and wicked men, or addicted to the practice of evil deeds, who are enemies in the guise of friends, and those given up to gluttony, all such foolish men of mistaken and stupid minds fall into the hardest of hardships, to the misery of miseries, and to the horror of horrors, and to the hell of hells. Happiness and misery destroy and succeed each other by turns. They are as fleeting as flashes of lightning. Hence it is impossible to be happy forever. Those great souls who are indifferent and well judging like yourself are known as the most honorable of men, worthy of both temporal enjoyments and spiritual emancipation. By reliance upon right reasoning, joined with the habit of remaining dispassionate, men are able to overcome the dark and dangerous torrents of this world. No man of reason, who well knows how the illusion of the world derange understanding, should allow himself to sleep amid these illusions. Whoever remains neglectful in his worldliness is like a man negligently sleeping on a grassy bed when his house is on fire. A state reached without return, attained so there is no more cause for sorrow, undoubtedly is attainable only by divine knowledge, and that is a certain truth. Even if such a future state did not exist, there would be no harm to believe in it. But if such a state exists, belief in it will save you from the ocean of this world. Wherever a man is inclined to think on the means of his salvation, he is sure to soon be entitled to his liberation. The undecaying, unerring, and fearless state of tranquility is nowhere to be had in three worlds without union with the Supreme. Having gained that best of gains, no one is liable to the pain from which no wealth, friend, or relation can save. Neither the action of one's hands and feet in his offering and pilgrimage to distant lands, nor the bodily pains of asceticism, nor his refuge in a holy place can serve his salvation. It is only by means of one's best exertions and the fixing of his mind to one object, and also by the subjection of his desires, that one may arrive at the ultimate state. So it is that by means of discrimination, reasoning, and ultimate ascertainment of truth, a man may avoid the snares of misery and attain his best state. On sitting at ease and meditating within himself, attains the blissful state free from sorrow and future birth. All holy men are known to be beyond the bounds of frail pleasures. They reckon their best serenity to be their ultimate bliss. They have given up all the thoughts of humanity and heaven, which are as devoid of true joy as a mirage is void of water. Therefore, should one think of subduing his mind and resort to peace and contentment as the means? These, joined with an unbounded composure, produce true happiness. It is not to be had by sitting or going up and down, or by wandering or by prostrating. It is not to be acquired by rakshas, demons, deities, or ignorant men. That ultimate joy is born of and obtainable from peace of mind. It is fruit from the bosom of peace of the high tree of reason. Those engaged in worldliness without mixing in it are like the all-illumining sun and are known as the best of men. The mind at peace and rest, clear and free from errors, and without any attempt or desire, neither forsakes nor wishes for the world. Hear me tell you that about the orders of the gods, that is equanimity, inquiry, contentment, and good company, at the gate of salvation. If you know these orders, you are allowed to enter. Thirsting after pleasure is a state of protracted illness, and this world is full of mirage. Only equanimity can cool this dryness, like the motioning beams of the moon. It is peacefulness that leads to all good and is reckoned the best state of being. Quiet is joy. It is peace and prevents errors. The man who lives content with his quiet and a calm clarity of his soul, with a mind filled with detachment, make friends of his enemies. Those whose minds are adorned with the moonlight of peacefulness feel within a flux of beams of purity, rising in them like the whitish waves of the milky ocean. Those holy men who have the lotus-like flower of peacefulness growing in the lotus-shaped receptacle of their hearts, are said to have a secondary heart like the two hearts of the god Hari. They whose untainted faces shine like the moon with the luster of peacefulness are to be honored as the luminaries of their families. Others, seeing the charming beauty of their appearance, honor them as ravishers of the senses. Whatever is beautiful in the three worlds, and whatever may be imperial prosperity and grandeur, nothing in them can afford a happiness equal to that of peacefulness. Whatever the misery, anxiety, or intolerable difficulty, they are all lost in tranquil mind, like darkness in the sun. The mind of no living being is so delighted with moonbeams as that of the peaceful man from his heartfelt joy. The virtuous man, who is calm and quiet and friendly to all living beings, feels the benign influence of highest truth appearing of themselves in his mind. Just like all children, whether good or bad, have a strict faith in their mother, so all beings here rely upon a man of an even disposition. A refreshing drink of ambrosia or the kind embrace of the prosperity cannot give such gratification to the soul as one's inner satisfaction of the mind. Whether afflicted by disease or disaster, or dragged by the rope of greed, bear yourself up, O Ram, by the composure of your mind. Whatever you do and eat, with the calm coolness of your mind, all that is far sweeter to the soul than anything sweet to taste. The mind that is overpowered by the ambrosial flavor of peacefulness and desists from activity may have the body lacerated, but it will heal shortly. No imp, demon or enemy, and no tiger or snake ever annoys a peaceful man. He who has his mind and body well guarded by the invulnerable armor of meekness can never be pierced by the shafts of adversity. He remains like the thunderstone that is impenetrable by arrows. The king seated in his palace is not so graceful to see as a quiet, peaceful man who is graced by his calm and clarity of understanding. There is nothing in life so delightful to see as the satisfaction one feels at the sight of a contented and peaceful man. Only he who lives a holy life with his gentle and peaceful conduct is said to be truly living in this world. A sober-minded, meek and honest man pleases everyone by all that he does. It is as if he captivates all beings to himself. He is called the meek who neither feels pleasure nor pain at the sight, touch, sound or taste of anything good or bad. He who is indifferent to all objects and neither lives nor longs for anything, but keeps his senses and appetites under control is called a saint. Whoever knows all the things, both internally and externally, with a clear understanding, and who attends and looks to his own concern, is truly said to be a saint. He whose mind remains as calm as moonbeams at the approach of either feast or violence, and even at the moment of death, is said to be a saint. whom though present, neither rejoices nor murmurs at anything, but remains as if he were absent from it, and conducts himself as quietly as if he were fast asleep, such a person is called a saint. He who is complacent to cast a graceful nectar-like radiance on all around him is said to be a saint. Who feels a cool calmness within himself and is not disturbed or immersed in any state of life, and whom, though a layman, is not worldly minded, such a man is termed as saint. He who doesn't take the difficulties of life to his mind, however long or great they may be, or who doesn't think his body to be himself, is known to be saint. The man of the world, who has a mind as clear as the sky and is not tainted, is said to be a saint. The quiet man with tranquility of mind shines forth among sages and ascetics, among priests and princes, and among the mighty and learned, great and meritorious men whose minds are attached to the peacefulness, feel a rest arising in their souls like cooling moonbeams. Peacefulness is the greatest of all the many virtues and the best decoration of courage. It shines resplendent among all dangers and difficulties. O Ram, seek your perfection in the way in which high-minded men have sought, and attain their perfect states, by holding fast on to peacefulness as an imperishable virtue, preserved by the respectable and never to be lost or stolen. Let us take another chapter 14, which is on rational inquiry, the necessity of inquiry and clear reasoning. It must be the duty of one whose understanding is cleared and purified by a knowledge of the scriptures to argue constantly with a guide who knows how to reason correctly. Understanding, when sharpened by reasoning, comes to see transcendence. The only best medicine for the chronic disease of worldliness is reasoning. The world is like a forest of troubles, sprouting endless desires, which, being once felled under the saw of reason, will germinate no more. O wise Ram, our understandings are shrouded under the unconsciousness at the loss of our friends, at times of dangers, and even of quiet. Only reason is our companion. There is no expedient for the learned and wise except reason. It is by means of reason that the minds of good people can avoid evil and secure their good. All our strength and understanding, our valor and renown, and the ends of our actions results from our reasoning with the intelligence. Reason is the lamp to show us right and wrong, and the instrument with which we accomplish our desires. By reliance of right reason, one can easily cross over the wide ocean of the world. Pure reasoning, like a strong lion, tears asunder the elephants of great error with ravage of lotus beads of the mind. If ignorant men have it, by reliance on right reason, one can easily crosses over the wide ocean of the world. Pure reasoning, like a strong lion, tears asunder the elephants of great error, which ravage the lotus beds of the mind. If ignorant men have at any time attained a better state in life, it was all owing to the light of the lamp of their reason. Know, O Raghav, that dominion and fair prosperity, together with our enjoyments and eternal salvation, are all only fruits of the celestial, wish-fulfilling culp tree of reason. The minds of great men, expanded by reasoning, are never liable to be immersed under the currents of calamity, like gods upon water. Those who conduct themselves with their intellect shining forth with reason become the recipients of its most liberal gifts. Lack of reason is like the thorny and sore currant plant sprouting forth with blossoms of sorrow, growing in the lakes of ignorant minds in order to shut out their hopes and prospects. O Raghav, shake off the lethargy caused by your neglect of reasoning. This torpor darkens your vision as if by the black eyeliner, coryllium powder, and maddens your mind as if by the drunkenness of wine. The man of right judgment is not liable to fall into the long and dangerous maze of error, but remains as a blaze of light amidst the gloom. The reasoning faculties shine like a bed of lotuses in the limpid lake of the mind. Whoever has such a reasoning mind exalts his head as high as the Himalayan heights. A man having a dull mind and incapable of reasoning with the sharpness of a flash of lightning is like a child who sees false apparitions about him. Ram, you must shun and keep base, unreasonable men at a distance. They grow as plump as a sugar cane to cause sorrow. They resemble the spring season that grows fresh weeds of evil. Whatever misdeeds, misconducts, and mishaps present themselves to man, they all result from his lack of the light of right reasoning, from his lack of the light of reason. And they lay hold of him like ghosts appearing in the dark. O support of Raghu's race, shun the unreasonable man at a distance. He is like a solitary wild tree that comes to no good use. A mind filled with reason and devoid of the impatience that attends worldly desires feels the light of transcendent quietism shining in the soul with the full luster of the moon. When the light of the reason shines in any person, it imparts the coolness and good rays of moonbeams to all things around him. The reasoning power of man, accompanied with the flag of divine knowledge and the silvery fan of good understanding, shines like moonlight in the darkness of night. Men with good grace of their reason throw a sun-like radiance on all directions, on all sides about them, and dispel the gloom of worldliness. Reasoning serves to destroy the false apparitions of error which present themselves to the minds of children like ghosts in the night sky. All things in the world appear charming, but they are only unrealities. They are like clods of earth that are broken by the hammering stone of reason. Men torment themselves with the false imaginations of their own minds. Only reason can drive away this deeply rooted apparition from the mind. Know that the fruit of a high tree of reason is the even, unobstructed, interminable, and independent happiness, called perfect detachment, that is Kaivalya. Through reason and its evident influence on the deprivation of gratification, there rises an unshaken and exalted disinterestedness in the mind, like the cooling beams of the moon. When a saint has reached his perfection by means of the elixir of judgment seated in his mind, he neither desires for more nor leaves what he has. A mind relying on that state of equanimity and perceiving the clear light has neither its fall nor elevation, but enjoys its inward expansion like that of a vacuum forever. One unconcerned with the world neither gives nor receives anything, nor feels himself elated or depressed at any event, but views everything as an indifferent spectator. He is neither numbingly cold, nor does he dwell on anything, internally or externally. He is not inactive or merged in activity. He slights the loss of anything and lives content with what he has. He is neither depressed nor elevated, but remains as full as the sea. It is in this manner that the high aspiring great souls who are yogis conduct themselves in this world with their fullness and living as liberated in this life. These saintly sages, having lived as long as they like, abandon it at last and gain their perfect detachment and eternal unity. A wise man should intently consider within whom he is and whom he belongs to, what is his family, by whom he is surrounded, and think of the remedy. It is a king, O Ram, who well knows the difficult and doubtful state of the business, and his success or failure depends solely on his right judgment and on nothing else. It is the sayings and information established by the Vedas and the Vedanta that from the grounds of our evidence, and these are to be ascertained by our reason as by the help of a lamp in the gloom of night. The bright eyesight of reason even when it has to view things at a distance, is neither blinded by darkness nor dimmed by the full blaze of daylight. He who is blind to reason is like one born child, is like one born blind. A demented man is an object of universal pity, but a man with a reasoning soul is said to be possessed of divine eyesight and becomes victorious in all things. The miraculous power of reason is acknowledged to be a divine attribute and an instrument to highest joy. Therefore, it is not to be lost sight of even for a moment. A man graced by reason is loved even by the great, just as the delicious and ripe mango fruit is delicious to all. Men with their minds illuminated by the light of reason are like travelers acquainted with their way. They are not liable to pitfalls of constant danger and misery. Neither a sick man nor one beset by hundreds of evils wails as bitterly as an ignorant man whose soul is deprived of reason. Rather leap like a frog in mud, or creep like a worm in the dirt, or lie like a snake in a dark hole, or crawl on the ground, than walk like a man devoid of reason. Therefore get rid of unreasonableness, which is the home of all your danger, is condemned by the wise, and is the end of all your disasters. Great men must always be in full possession of their reasoning, because those unsupported by their reason are liable to fall into the pits of darkness. Let everyone keep his soul under the control of his own reason, and by this means deliver the deer of his mind from falling into the mirage of this world. It is the province of reasoning to consider logically that it is in one's own self that the evil known as worldliness has its rise. The thick mist of error is only for the continued misery of man, and it prevails on the stony minds of those who are demented by the loss of reason. Even the wise who hold fast to the truth and forsake all untruth in this world are unable to discern their true nature without the aid of reason. It is by means of reason that one comes to the knowledge of truth, and by means of truth that he gets peace of mind. And it is tranquility of mind that dispels the misery of man. Now Ram, take delight in such acts as may be productive of utility to the world, and whereby you may arrive to perfection. Weigh all things with the clear eye of reason, which will make you blessed forever. With this chapter 14 ends, and here we ends today's readout session. Shivoham friends, we'll meet tomorrow again by the grace of Lord Ram.